Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I've got Stephanie Barrymore on. She and I have been communicating for quite some time, but have finally figured out how to get her on the program. And she is with a company called thesellingmethod.com. One of my big burdens out there is help business owners and entrepreneurs like the listener to be able to really grow his or her business. And in light of the fact that it's more difficult now than ever to reach a decision maker and to get a decision maker to make a decision. They're now all anti-decision makers. I don't know. They're undecision makers. But we need to get through the minutia, get through this problem, and I think Stephanie might help you do that. Stephanie, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
So tell me a little bit about the selling method.
Yeah, sure. So what we do at the selling method is sales strategy, growth strategy consulting, sales training, and sales management development. Early on when we founded the company about 8 years ago, we were solely focused on sales training, going into large-size companies, enhancing what they're doing today in terms of selling to their customer base and working with the company to implement that new program. Mm-hmm. However, today it's evolved because, companies now more than ever have got to have business line leaders working together in order to provide the appropriate customer experience. So today, we do a lot of sales consulting and growth strategy consulting initially to make sure that the departments are aligned as far as how they're going to service the customer, and then we create a program around that.
Okay. So give me an example.
Okay, sure. So an example today would be, let's say, a beauty product distributor that we work with. It's about a $500 million company. And, what happens sometimes with companies that provide products and services is that they become internally focused on the product versus how the product or the solution might solve a business problem for a customer.
Right.
So what happens is that when a company, gets to that size or grows rapidly around their product or service, they tend to hire within their industry, or maybe they are experts in their specific business line, but they don't, they forget that they have to revisit together as a company how they service the customer. So, for example, in this example that I'm referencing, specifically the marketing team, for example. Now, in a company that's sales-driven, you're going to have a marketing department that wants to support the sales team. And today, marketing teams have a hefty job because with the invention or the weight of responsibility around social media means that the marketing team is communicating more than ever directly to the end user or the customer. So sales and marketing have to be on the same page in terms of how they're communicating what their products or services do for the customer. And in turn, operations as well, because that's service on the back end. A lot of times if you're in a commoditized space or a competitive industry, that's where you're going to differentiate yourself. So now more than ever, each different business line within an organization has to really communicate and be on the same page in terms of how they sell and service their customer. Stephanie
Barrymore, she's with thesellingmethod.com, talking about how her company works. So tell me about how do you get that initial engagement with busy CEOs in this economy?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Actually, we call it the 7 or 8 pronged approach. First of all, if you're selling B2B, let's take that first, right? Because now more than ever with web-based businesses, it's a little different. But if you're selling business to business, it's critical to go directly to the C-level person within an organization. And here's why. Today, with
hold it. Before you go on, say that again.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a difference now, really, with B2B, with with social media. You have to remember, first of all, who's your target market and where are they? So for B2B, if you're selling to a business, right, that's a different way of approaching the C-level decision maker because they're probably, in terms of where are they on the internet, they're really not anywhere but LinkedIn.
Right, and even then, there's a lot of those that are gatekeeper protected.
Oh, absolutely. So today, there's no longer, probably like 10 or so years ago, it used to be real common, kind of a metrics approach, like cold call, get the appointment. Well, that doesn't work anymore.
Doesn't happen.
No, doesn't happen. So you have to find out where are they? Where are the 4 places these CEOs are? You also have to be very strategic and be researching all the time in terms of what they're facing, problems that they're facing in their business, and how can your products and services really help them.
So it sounds like you would suggest they spend a lot of time looking at their social media feeds, what they're talking about, what they're working on, to see if you can create a match that would help. If there's any media out there that covers your potential client's story, that you're watching that as well, because they'll tell the ugly side as well as the good side, which can give you a better opportunity for them to help. Are these good suggestions?
Absolutely, absolutely. And through LinkedIn, you can see who knows them. And actually, what organizations do they belong to?
Yes.
And things of that nature. And today, you've got to be real tough. If you get turned down in one avenue, you got to remember that doesn't mean much. You can't get discouraged until you actually have a conversation or an email exchange with that decision maker.
And I wouldn't even get discouraged then. Think how many times it took Thomas Edison to get a light bulb right. Look how many times it took Colonel Sanders pitching his chicken before he finally closed that deal. I think it was like 60-something times, as many times as he had years. And so people need to be, and that's part of the problem in our culture. All of this immediacy, I think, makes us wimpy.
Yeah. Absolutely. And lazy. I mean, we like that. I hate to use that word, but...
it's a great word. It's so apropos.
Yeah. Yes. We're lazy because salespeople, you can make it about metrics, and how many times you reach somebody or how much activity you have, but you'll burn out. So it's like you got to have both. You got to make it about metrics because activity breeds results.
Absolutely.
You definitely have to have, we say at the selling method, activity is everything. If you've got activity, we've seen so many people focus per se on a couple of accounts and they have a ton of activity, and then out of left field another opportunity will come on the table just because they had the activity. Exactly
right. I couldn't agree with you more. And so often the activity itself may not produce a closed deal, but it will lead you to a closed deal. I know from my sales team that they would be pursuing a client, and then all of a sudden they closed a deal directly connected to that person they had been pursuing because of some chance meeting or even that potential client introduced them to them, and they closed that deal even though they didn't close the deal they were pursuing. Activity does produce activity.
That's absolutely right. And today you also have to make sure your content, again, is solving business problems, and it has to be unique and different from your competitor. So you have to really play both sides.
No question about it. And so it's getting, what I think is interesting is that all of the tools of communication has actually made communication of a lower quality and harder to accomplish.
Correct.
And that's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and also, it's sort of this analysis paralysis. So again, if you are a salesperson who's an analytical person, you got to be careful because you can get really stopped in your tracks with all the different platforms that are out there today in terms of reaching, the C-level decision maker, even a VP-level decision maker. You can't let it paralyze you, so you have to have a strategy. Yeah.
So tell me about what social media you like and what you think it should look like.
I really, again...
Oh, man, wait a minute. I'm sorry, Stephanie. I'm looking at the clock. We got 10 seconds left. I can't do that. We're going to have to get you back on to answer that question and more in the future. Stephanie did a great job. Stephanie Barrymore, she's with thesellingmethod.com. That's thesellingmethod.com. I never lose track of the clock, but you're just too good for me not to. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much.
We'll get you on again in the future. I'm Kevin Price. When we come back, much more for you. Stay tuned to it right after this.